Welcome guys to this tutorial. In our previous lesson, we have seen about how to retrieve data from SQLite databases to our user. And now we will see how to update the data from the database. And before doing that, let's start from display the ID of the users from the database to our user interface. So in order to display the ID from the database to our user interface, let's move to the result.xml file and add a component for the ID. For that, let's add a text view over here, and let's adjust the position of the text view. So I have to give the constraints for this text view. Well, so let's move to the text part of this text view and adjust some of the properties of the text view. For this, let's copy from here and duplicate it for my ID, and let's change this to and name of the text view to ID of user. So finished this work, and let's move to the custom adapter and add some of the properties of the ID. So let's start from adding an array list for it. So from here, and give this array list to the constructor, and I have to initialize also constructor. And let's move to the my beholder class and add a text view for the ID, and also I have to give the value for this ID of user. So I have added the value for this, and let's move to the unbind beholder and bind the text view, the data that comes from the array list, which means from the database, to our text view. So I have added the value over this, and let's move to the main activity.java file and add in the array list ID also. So I have to initialize over here ID new array list, and I have to pass the to this method the ID also. So and I have to retrieve the value of the ID from the database. Cursor string of 0 because the ID is the first column in our database, so we have to pass 0 the cursor object. So we have finished adjusting and retrieving the ID value also to our database. Then let's test the program. Well, the ID from the database, our user information database, is extracted to our user interfaces. The the left corner of the column is the ID of the user. So the ID of the user is extracted from the database to our user interface. Now So in order to update our databases from the SQLite database, let's move to the my database helper class and define a method for updating the database. So let's define this update method, and this will have a parameter of different ID, name, ID, name, email, and salary. So let's adjust this based on that name, email, and salary. So inside this method, let's define a SQLite database as this dot get writable database, because I'm writing the data. Get writable database, and I have to define a content values. So, and using an instance of the content values, I have to put a data, a column, two column name. Let's copy this and duplicate for salary and email, and this is email. Change this also to email, and this to salary. So this must be changed to salary. And now I have to write a query to update the database. Just db.update method, and I have to pass a table name over here, and I have to give the context values, and I have to give the where clause to update the database ID, which is equals to what. I have to give this dynamically a new string of, and I have to pass this ID. So this is table name. So I have to check whether the data is updated or not. If result -1, which means if the data is not updated, then I have to write post message. So over here, failed to update. Else, if the data is updated, it will give another message in the else block of code. Test this updated successfully. So this is the method to update the data. So now I have to move to the resource folder, and I have to create update activity for updating the data to put resources, and let's define it as empty activity, and I have to name it to update. So here the update activity layout is almost the same as to insert activity. So by moving to the insert activity, I have to copy and paste. In the insert activity, let's copy the file content and paste over the update activity. Well, and here I have to adjust some of the properties here. This change to name too, because the same ID in same project may cause problems, and I have to change this to salary too, and this to update. So I've changed the components. So this is the interface to update the data. And now let's move to the system adapter and define an intent data. But before doing this, let's move to the result page and give an ID for the linear layout of this result file. I have to give an ID just mail now. So just move to the custom adapter and define a view for each of them. The linear layout, my view holder class, linear layout. Then inside this, I have to access the ID. Nice. So let's move to the unbind view holder and add an event over it. So inside this, let's initialize an intent to open another activity. And I have to pass the context as a context, and I have to call the update activity dot class because I'm going to open the update activity. And let's define intent data over here. Intent dot puts extra, and I have to give the name of the intent data ID string dot value of ID dot date position. Then let's copy this and duplicate for us, for name and for salary, and I have to change this accordingly. And I have to change this also to email, and this to email also. And finally, I have to change this to salary, and this also to salary. And finally, I have to call start activity context dot start activity intent. So now I have to move to the update activity and access the edit texts for each of my edit text, name, mail, and salary. So, and I have to define a button for update button. So Inside on the onCreate method, I have to give a value for each of them. So let's change them accordingly to email, and I have to change this also to email too, and I have to change this to salary. Then I have to change this also to salary too. Then finally I have to change this to update for update button. Just to update. Well, and I have to add an event to this update button, so that in order to update the data, implement the methods. And let's define a method for accessing intent data, and let's name it to get intent data. Then I have to check if uh, there is an intent data. If get intent dot has extra ID, and let's duplicate for checking name, email, and salary. So these two, name, email, and salary. So if this data is available, then it will execute this block of code, else it will execute this block of code. Posts dot make text is no intent data, and I have to pass the length of the toast message. Toast dot short dot short. So if the intent data is available, then let's define a string variable to store the intent data. So string name of string ID of user, name of user, and email of user. And finally salary of user. So these are the strings that I have defined for accessing different intent data. So ID of user equals to get intent dot get string extra ID. So let's duplicate for others, and this to name change, and I have to change this also to name, and this to email, and I have to change this also to email from the intent data from email, and I have to change this to salary, and I have to change this also to salary. So after accessing this intent data, name dot set text and name of user, and email dot set text email of user, and finally salary dot text salary of well. So I have to move back. Let's call this method over here, and in this I have to call the my database helper class. I have to create an object over it, new my database helper, and I have to give the context. It's this. So inside this I have to access and give a value for name of user, which is equals to name dot get text dot to string. So I have to change this to email. So and I have to change this to salary, and I have to change this also to email and this to salary. Nice. So and here I have to call the updates data class db dot method update data, and I have to pass this ID of user, name of user, email of user, and salary of user. So after doing this, I think we're on the way to finish. So let's test our program and just press run. This is the output of the program. If you press on any row like this, then it will get the information from the database to your edit text. And if you want to update, then edit like this, 80 to 50. And if you press update, then it will update it. So the updated data is not displayed, but if we rerun the program, it will display. So when we rerun the program, the updated information is displayed, so you can press on any row and you can update the information. So in order to update dynamically, let's add some functionality to our program. So in order to update our activity dynamically, let's move to the custom adapter and then add an activity object to custom adapter constructor. Activity is defined first, and have to add this activity of constructor, and I have to initialize also dot activity equals to activity. So let's move to find the folder and change this to object activity dot set start activity for result, and I have to pass in here, and I have to give the request code for this, and on the main activity to add activity to main activity does this, and I have to implement an already method for activity for result. Just press Ctrl O and activity for result, activity result for result, and here if request code which is equal to 1, then refresh our main. or recreate, which means refresh main activity. So let's test this program.
So here is the
Run.
output. If I press this row and I change this salary to 60, then and I press update, and if I dynamically refresh it, it updates and refresh dynamically. So this is all about how to update database values from SQLite. Thanks for watching this video. Please like and subscribe for more videos.